Voters in the Venezuelan state of Barinas are set to head to the polls again this Sunday to elect the state governor. South Africa's ruling African National Congress celebrated its 110th anniversary this Saturday. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Kazakh counterpart Kassym-Jomart Tokayev held a lengthy phone conversation to discuss the situation in Kazakhstan following unprecedented unrest. From the headquarters of Teleso English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Venezuela, where voters in the state of Barinas are set to head to the polls again this Sunday to elect the state governor. Our special correspondent, Tatiana Perez, brings us more details.
Barinas State is the gateway to the Venezuelan plain, so vast that the view is endless. It is a land with a history of struggle and the cradle of the Bolivarian Revolution, and voters here are set to go to the polls to elect a new governor. From Friday, the pre-electoral silence period ranged in the panorama of calm as the game of chess.
Do I play? Yes, it is good to play a game of chess once in a while. It is the best thing to do.
The 6 candidates for the state mayor are seeking the support of 600,000 voters in Barinas, some to the polls in 12 municipalities. The pandemic, the illegal economic blockade imposed by the United States, and the mistake made have taken their toll. The people expected changes.
Well, we hope there will be a good administration to improve Barinas and a good atmosphere.
To move forward, to provide us with new opportunities, for me, that is what is needed. Among the main candidates are former Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza for the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, who promises revision, rectification, and revival. On the other hand, there is a divided opposition between the lawmaker from Barinas, Sergio Garrido, registered by the Democratic United Roundtable Coalition, and the former candidate to the presidency, Claudio Fermin, for the Democratic Alliance. Both share the plan to crush Chavismo, but now, fortunately, through democratic methods.
Let Barinas be the epicenter of the continental gathering, because many countries today have their eyes set on this city, on this electoral process that is going to take place this Sunday night. We hope the progressive communities and the leftist movement will be victorious. I feel that force, a very strong force, and we were just talking about it, weren't we? As if there was a reunion with Chavismo.
Right now, there is no other topic of conversation than Sunday's elections, their meaning for Venezuela and for the Bolivarian Revolution before the war, making it clear that it is the land where Hugo Chavez was born.
This election, beyond determining the governor as of next Monday, January 10th, means maintaining the continuity of patriotic symbolism, of a patriotic view, of a historical criteria, and above all, of that legacy that we have from our ancestors, through all the independence struggles that the people of Barinas joined and consolidated at the time.
Las luchas independentistas que los barineses y las barinesas supieron en su momento sumarse y consolidarla.
Meanwhile, local authorities report that everything is ready for Sunday's vote. Today, the 961 polling stations are 100% ready and installed, with all the operative personnel, with all the members of the polling stations, and with the witnesses of the different candidates of this electoral process.
We have more than 25,000 troops deployed throughout the state of Barinas, across its territory of 35,200 square kilometers.
Both officials applaud the democratic behavior of the competing candidates and called on the people to go to the polls, taking into account the biosecurity measures.
In October of this year, Brazil will hold general elections. During 2021, the country was marked by major street mobilizations and the political comeback of former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. Our correspondents Andre Vieira and Sebastian Soto bring us a recap of the events.
Brazil experienced a 2021 of major mobilizations. In a year in which 424,000 people died from COVID-19, the people took to the streets, stressing the president was more dangerous than the virus. They demanded vaccines in their arms and food on their plates. In a country with 20 million hungry people, as well as the resignation of the president, who has accumulated more than 140 impeachment requests.
President Bolsonaro and his government are made up of cruel anti-science and anti-life creatures. So this is a policy of death.
2021 was also the year of resistance, with the occupations that fought against eviction in the midst of a pandemic, and with the Supreme Court decisions to suspend the removals. In parallel, anti-racist protests denounced the extermination of the black population by state security agents, and in Brasilia, different ethnic groups from all over the country carried out the largest indigenous mobilization since the 1988 Constitution in defense of their lands and against the Bolsonaro administration.
We are the owners of all these territories. There is no point in postponing the vote or whatever. They're not going to leave. And if we leave, they're going to return because we have resistance. We are indigenous peoples. We are strong and we are going to fight to the death.
2021 also saw political upheaval. The Supreme Court reinstated the political rights of former President Lula da Silva and considered Judge Sergio Moro's behavior to be impartial in the case. This, together with the street protests, the health, social and economic crisis, led Bolsonaro to his worst approval rating ever, with 53% rejecting his presidency, according to a Datafolha poll in December. The president's current support is around 20%.
As for our president, I think he's doing many things that many did not do. That's all I have to say.
The so-called third way has weakened and is represented by figures such as Sergio Moro, the former judge who convicted Lula and became Bolsonaro's minister, or Ciro Gomes, former minister under Lula. None of them reaches 10% support. Meanwhile, the former president of the Workers' Party leads all the polls.
I believe that as a candidate, former President Lula in the first round or at the most in the second round will win by the wide margin, and that would be a good thing.
For 2022, the main fronts of the popular movement established 4 central guidelines: to resume major mobilizations in defense of rights and life, to undertake a massive campaign for the election of Lula da Silva, to continue with the battle of ideas using communications for the dialogue on the necessary changes, and to build an anti-capitalist project for the country. These movements highlight the progressive victories in Peru, Honduras and Chile, and aim for the integration of governments and people. Well, there are 2 elections that will be fundamental for the whole continent. The elections in Colombia in May, where Petro is ahead and I hope he wins. And then here in Brazil. In fact, if we manage to win in those 2 elections, it will change the correlation of political forces in the whole continent. And with it, the doors will be open to resume several Latin American integration projects. The general elections in the South American giant are less than 9 months away.
André Vieira e Sebastião Soto, Telesur, Rio de Janeiro, Brasil.
At least 13 Colombian police officers were wounded in an attack on their truck using explosives in the southwestern city of Cali, according to authorities. The Secretary of Security and Justice of Cali said a truck carrying 15 agents of the notorious Mobile Anti-Disturbances Squadron was blown up by a remotely detonated explosive. The truck was badly damaged in the blast. No civilians were reported injured, while the wounded officers were evacuated from the area and transferred to various medical centers in the city.
Information provided by the police is that this is a terrorist attack. A vehicle of the SMAT, Mobile Anti-Riot Squadron, carrying officers who were on duty at the quay of Puerto Rellena at the intersection of Carrera 26, was hit by an explosive device and about 13 police officers were injured.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. South Africa's ruling African National Congress celebrated its 110th anniversary this Saturday with an event led by President Cyril Ramaphosa in the northern Limpopo province. The day is an occasion to remember the South African people's struggle for freedom against the British and Boer colonisers, as well as to demolish the apartheid regime. The African National Congress was founded in 1912 to oppose white minority rule and to campaign for black South Africans to have full democratic rights. The party came to power in 1994 when the country's first democratic elections were held and Nelson Mandela became the first black president.
Must be forthright in recognizing and deal decisively with the reality that ANC structures are in a poor state themselves. Many of them are focused on internal organizational conflicts, factionalism, and furthering the self-interest of individual leaders, which results in the lack of service delivery to our people and the lack of addressing the aspirations of communities that they are meant to serve.
Relations between Russia and the United States were tense over the past year, and the situation does not look any different at the start of 2022. One of the central issues is security on the border with Ukraine. We have more details in the following report by Sergei Monin of our partner Brasil de Fato.
On Sunday, January 2nd, U.S. President Joe Biden promised the Ukrainian president that Washington and its allies will respond decisively in the event of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Biden's conversation with Volodymyr Zelensky followed a telephone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on December 30th. On that occasion, Biden threatened Moscow with sanctions in the event of a possible invasion of Ukraine, although Russia has repeatedly denied speculation about any plans to do so.
He made it clear to President Putin that if he makes any more moves and goes into Ukraine, we will have severe sanctions. We will increase our presence in Europe with our NATO allies, and it will be a heavy price to pay for it.
Russian President Vladimir Putin, for his part, responded that if the West decides to impose new economic, financial and military sanctions against Moscow, it could lead to a complete breakdown in the relations between the two countries, causing serious damage to Russia's relations with the West. During the last 30 years of the new Russia, we have witnessed how the NATO political military alliance has made advances towards the east, seizing new territories. In this sense, of course, it was and it is a threat to the Russian Federation because Russia is not a member of the NATO bloc. But it is constantly under pressure from new military structures that are moving closer and closer to its border. Although there are no new reports of escalating military exercises on the Ukrainian border, the belligerent rhetoric continues. On January 5th, the U.S. Secretary of State issued a new threat against Russia.
If Russia nonetheless chooses to escalate, we will respond swiftly. The United States, Germany, and our allies and partners, including at NATO, the European Union, the G7, have been very clear that Russia will face massive consequences for renewed aggression against Ukraine.
Russia has never had and still does not have the objective of seeking military solutions to existing problems. All the efforts that Russia has adopted for the development of its armed forces are exclusively defensive in nature. As such, in order to mitigate the possibility of an arms race, Russia proposes to sit down at the negotiation table with the U.S. to adopt legal guarantees and conditions on the non-advancements to the east and the establishment of strike complexes on the territory of Russia's neighboring countries. In the virtual meeting between Putin and Biden in mid-December, the Russian president stressed that NATO was making dangerous attempts to conquer Ukrainian territory and demanded guarantees to prevent the bloc expansion into Eastern Europe.
warnings have been issued of possible all-time record high temperatures in the southern cone over the next few days. According to reports by the US Global Forecast System, parts of Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay could see temperatures of up to 50 degrees Celsius by the end of the week. January could see the hottest summer in the region of all time, with temperatures surpassing the record set more than a century ago. The year has already begun with temperatures over 45 degrees in several areas, with authorities urging caution in the face of the extreme heat wave. At least 21 people were killed in an enormous traffic jam caused by tens of thousands of visitors flocking to a Pakistani hill town to see unusually heavy snowfall, authorities said Saturday. Police reported that at least 8 people had frozen to death in their cars, while it was not immediately clear if others had died from asphyxiation after inhaling exhaust fumes in snowbound vehicles. The Interior Minister said the military had mobilized to clear roads and rescue thousands still trapped near Maree, around 70 kilometers northeast of the capital, Islamabad. Video shared on social media showed cars packed bumper to bumper with 1-meter-high piles of snow on their roofs. Pakistan's National Weather Forecasting Centre said heavy snowfall was expected in the area until Sunday afternoon, while the Information Minister said decades of weather records had been broken in the last 48 hours. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Kazakh counterpart Kassym-Jomart Tokayev held a lengthy phone conversation to discuss the situation in Kazakhstan following unprecedented unrest, the Kremlin said on Saturday. Russian military aircraft continued to transfer Russian and Belarusian peacekeepers to Kazakhstan following the request for support issued by the Kazakh president to the Collective Security Treaty Organization. In a statement, the Kremlin said President Tokayev had informed President Putin in detail about the situation in the country, noting that it's developing towards stabilization, while thanking the CSTO military alliance and especially Russia for its help in quelling the destabilization attempts that broke out earlier this week. The two leaders agreed to remain in constant contact and hold a video conference meeting of the alliance in the coming days. And Russia on Saturday slammed US Secretary of State Antony Blinken as boorish for claiming Kazakhstan would be saddled with a Russian presence after asking Moscow to send in peacekeeping troops. The US Secretary of State tried to make a funny joke today about the tragic events in Kazakhstan, Russia's foreign ministry said in a statement on Facebook, adding that Blinken ridiculed a totally legitimate response of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, made up of Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. The Russian foreign ministry also called to look at history and the unfortunate peoples who had the bad luck to see uninvited United States guests at their doorstep, naming Native Americans, Koreans, Vietnamese and Syrians, among others. People fled from Kazakhstan into Russia on Saturday as parts of the country saw widespread violent unrest. Many of those crossing said they had family in Russia and cited concerns over the violence and a lack of internet as they crossed the Burgostoy border checkpoint from Kazakhstan. The unrest began in the country's far west as protests against a sharp rise in prices for liquefied petroleum gas that's widely used as vehicle fuel, but then spread to the major city of Almaty, where violent groups seized and burned government buildings in what the authorities stressed were coordinated terrorist acts by foreign-trained sleeper cells.
Family is in the center of the events. My daughter is in Almaty. The war has passed there. You can put it in this way. It is very scary there. I am leaving now, and we have no connection. I can only call by phone. The internet is off. Everything is destroyed. Absolutely all buildings. It is as if it were a real war. You know, absolutely all shopping centers, absolutely all restaurants, cafes, everything is destroyed.
Iran's government has imposed sanctions on 51 United States officials for their role in the 2020 assassination of top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. The Foreign Ministry said in a statement on Saturday that the officials had been blacklisted in relation to the terrorist act of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps general's assassination and human rights violations. Among the additions to a list that already included Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo are US Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley, Central Command Chief Kenneth McKenzie, Pentagon officials and commanders in several US bases across the region. Major General Qasem Soleimani was killed in a US drone strike on Baghdad's international airport on January 3, 2020. In Nigeria, at least 200 bodies have been recovered and buried after gunmen suspected to be bandits invaded different communities in the areas of the northeastern Zamfara state. Gunmen on motorbikes arrived in large numbers in as many as 9 communities between Tuesday and Thursday night, opening fire on residents and burning homes, according to survivors who fled. The terrorists also destroyed valuables, abducted and displaced several persons, including women and children. Deadly attacks have raged across Zamfara state, where gangs known as bandits thrive. Farming and herding communities in the state have long been terrorized by the armed groups who raid villages, steal cattle and kidnap residents for ransom. And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesoenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For Teleso English, I'm Katrina Voss. Thank you for watching.